He is an absolutely disgusting, smelly orphan with no friends, but his life completely changes one day when he meets an old man who gives him a special sword and tells him to become the next king.
Is this light coming from me?
The story begins in a world that is divided between the realm of the whites and the blacks, who are not allowed to mix with each other. Despite being Asian, our nameless hero lives in a little village in the realm of the blacks as a snotty little orphan. One day, he decides to finally go out with the elders to hunt some meat, but just as they are about to leave, one of the men comes running to them and tells them that they are under attack by a pack of monsters. Hearing this, everyone gets scared, but the hunters tell everyone to grab their weapons and to defend the village with their lives. One of them requests our boy to take the kids up the hill and hide inside the cave, and the ladies reassure them that they will take care of things behind them. Hearing this, the kids agree to follow our protagonist and start running towards the hill, while the village gets attacked by the massive monsters, who utterly destroy the poor villagers like GTA NPCs. While running away, one of the kids falls down and our hero quickly walks back to help him. But before he can do anything, he hears a scream from the front and sees a massive centipede monster blocking their path. The monster instantly snacks on one of the kids before our boy can even react, and even when he gets up to fight, his attacks do basically nothing against the thick-skinned insect. Realizing this, he curses the monster and tells the other kid to run, then falls back and grabs the little girl who had fainted earlier from the monster's poison attack. He picks her up and starts running, but the monster quickly catches up to them again, ready to strike. Seeing no other option, the other kid decides to sacrifice himself by jumping in front of the monster and begs our protagonist to protect his little sister. Our boy finally reaches the cave, but the poison has already done its damage, and the little girl dies, leaving him shattered. After that, he desperately returns to the village with her body, screaming for help, only to find out that the entire village has been wiped out, and that he's the only one left alive. Feeling depressed and defeated, he starts digging a massive grave for all the villagers in the heavy rain until the next morning, when an old man called Skiers arrives and asks him what he's doing. The boy explains how monsters attack the village and says that all the surrounding ones have been destroyed too, so with nowhere else to go, he's digging a grave for the deceased. Seeing the poor boy's condition, the old man gives him a piece of bread and a bottle of water, which our boy lunges upon hungrily. They start talking about the King of Darkness who rules their country, and our protagonist says he doesn't understand why the king lets these monsters run wild. Skiers says the king must have his own concerns, but our boy asks if he's concerned about the right things, because to him, the right thing is for everyone to be happy. After a bit of back and forth, he quietly goes back to digging the hole, and says he'll keep digging it until the sunshine reaches the bottom. Skiers gets impressed after seeing the boy's potential, and suddenly throws him a sword, telling him to fight. At first, our protagonist thinks Skiers wants him to get stronger and fight for his people, but Skiers quickly denies it. He acts like he's seriously trying to kill him, saying that the King of Darkness has the right to kill anyone on a whim, and that Skiers himself was once a candidate for the throne. So if our boy just sits around mourning the villagers and digging holes while waiting for help from the sky, then it's better for him to die. His Irwin-like speech shakes something inside the boy, who finally sets his mind to become the next king, or at least someone who brings smiles to people's faces. Unlike earlier, his swordsmanship improves this time, and he blocks all of Skiers' incoming attacks. He eventually knocks the sword out of Skiers' hand and wins what seemed like an ordinary duel. Skiers starts laughing and drops to his knees, saying it's finally time for him to head to heaven or maybe hell. He reveals his true identity as a noble from the capital and advises our protagonist to take his sword and head there. He tells him that whoever holds that sword is considered the head of the family, and once he arrives, he must declare himself as the Prince of Darkness, the rightful successor to the King of Darkness. He further adds that there will be a knight named Valus who will accept him if he proves his worth through swordsmanship and earns his recognition. He says that this world is broken, and it's his job to fix it once he takes the throne. As the old man begins to die, tears start flowing from our boy's eyes, and something strange begins to happen. A wave of pure light surges through his body like he's entering some kind of Super Saiyan state, and that sudden energy even jolts Skiers' eyes open for a moment. With a smile, Skiers finally dies in peace, leaving everything to our protagonist. So far, all of this has been taking place on just one side of the world, the Kingdom of Black on Earth. But there is another side to this world as well, called the Kingdom of White in the Sky. The scene shifts to Queen Iris of the Kingdom of White, who is fighting off the monsters piercing through the sky and invading her realm. Unlike the dull King Fritz from Attack on Titan, Queen Iris is active and powerful, using her magical energy to erase the monsters, but no matter how many she eliminates, more keep coming. The White Knights also arrive, led by their commander Fiyus, along with a group of mages led by Shima. The mages channel magical energy into the knights, who then strike the monsters down with brilliant swordsmanship. As the battle rages, Iris observes the growing black portal and keeps a close eye on its rapid expansion. After dealing with the monsters, they return to their homes. Fiyus and Shima are siblings, along with their younger brother Theo, much like the Vermilion siblings from Black Clover. They talk about how Queen Iris could defeat the King of Darkness using the power of their progenitor runes alone, but she's restricted from unleashing their full potential. Shima wonders if Iris is holding back to maintain the balance of the world, but Fiyus immediately stops her from saying more, believing that Iris actually intends to wipe out the entire Kingdom of Black. An old man then approaches Iris to check on her well-being and the current state of the kingdom. She tells him that she's not sure if her power alone is enough to stand against the growing strength of the Black Kingdom, so she asks him to gather a group of knights and begin training them for the battles to come. Back in the Kingdom of Blacks, the protagonist takes the sword left behind by Skiers and walks through the streets of the capital. A knight spots him and questions why he's carrying that sword, but instead of answering, our hero asks him where Skiers' mansion is. The knight flares up in anger and draws his blade, and that's when our boy realizes that this must be Valis. He tells him that Skiers is dead, but Valis doesn't back down and corners him. That's when the protagonist repeats his iconic line and declares that he is the Prince of Darkness, the rightful successor to the King of Darkness. Hearing that, Valis accepts him as his master and agrees to take him to the mansion. The scene then shifts back to the Kingdom of Whites, where we see Iris praying to the progenitor rune, asking for its protection. Soon, Shima joins her, and they talk about the growing number of attacks from the Kingdom of Darkness. She wonders if their whole country is after the progenitor rune, but Iris says that the people of the Kingdom of Black are just like their own, and it's only the King of Darkness who is out of control and causing chaos for everyone, including his own people. She then says that she is confident that the next King of Darkness will preserve the world's balance. Just then, a knight rushes in with devastating news, saying they are under attack by Baal, so Iris immediately orders Shima and Fiyus to prepare their troops and set out at once. Iris flies west on her angel-like wings while Fiyus orders his troops to hold their positions. Shima telepathically commands her mages to prepare for battle. Baal, a ruthless monster with a body as tough as steel and wings that let him soar through the sky, watches the panicked evacuation with amusement. He gives the people time to ready their defenses before ascending into the air, where he spots the mages gathered at the temple. The mages launch magical attacks that feel like water splashes against the monster's armored body. Without hesitation, he destroys the temple along with the mages inside. Down below, knights fire arrows that barely scratch him but manage to catch his attention. Baal charges forward to crush them, but Atlantia, the elven leader, appears and directs the knights to focus on evacuating the people and promises to handle Baal himself. The scene shifts to Fiyus and Shima as they head to face Baal, when a soldier tells them that Knights of Darkness have appeared ahead, using Baal's invasion as a distraction. Fiyus quickly changes his plan and orders his knights to confront those Dark Knights. Moving forward, they encounter two knights who claim to be deserters. Fiyus commands them to drop their swords and kneel, and they obey. The two insist they are peasants forced into the war, trying to earn the White Knight's trust. Suddenly, dark energy envelops them, turning them into uncontrollable puppets that grab their swords and attack. More Black Knights emerge, charging forward, and the White Knights prepare to fight back. The scene changes back to Atlantia, who commands three spirits controlling basic elements to launch a simultaneous attack on Baal, but it deals no damage to him, and in response, he strikes them down brutally. Atlantia realizes Baal is an invincible monster and thinks that he is doomed, but then Iris lands nearby and sees the fallen mages who sacrifice themselves protecting the people. She engages Baal, striking him with her sword and magic. Though powerful, her attacks do no damage to Baal's metallic body, so she tries to draw more power from the rune, but Atlantia reminds her that she cannot exceed the limit and makes her stop. After that, he sends his spirits to support Iris, but unexpectedly, Baal withdraws from the battle. As the sun rises, the knights arrive to aid the survivors while Iris prays for them. Shima approaches and informs Iris that Black Knights appeared along their route, disguised as normal humans, but Fiyus dealt with them, and hearing this makes Iris mad. Back in the Imperial Palace of the Kingdom of Blacks, a monster meets Valis and asks about the king's whereabouts as he wants to discuss how his followers were defeated in a pointless invasion in the sky. He insists that the Black Knights are not savages who only invade, but just then, black energy surrounds the monster and chokes him to death. It turns out to be the King of Darkness who is returning to his throne. The king says that he despises the light and wants everything to be covered in darkness. According to him, darkness on earth and light in the sky cannot coexist, and he will not rest until he defeats everyone in the sky. But first, they must deal with the world's egoist, Baal. Valis returns home to find the self-proclaimed Prince of Darkness waiting. The prince asks where he has been, and Valis says that he was at the Imperial Palace, meeting with the king because he serves the king and his potential successors. Our protagonist realizes that Valis is loyal to the prince, and that much is certain. With that, he tells Valu that he has been waiting for swordsmanship practice because he cannot become a king without mastering the sword. Valis agrees but puts down a stack of books first and says that a king must understand how to run the government and feed his people, and that he must also improve his speech if he wants to become the king. He then tells him that they will start his sword training tomorrow. The young prince seems to understand all this and begins reading. After that, our boy spends his days reading books and practicing swordsmanship with Valis. Days later, Valis praises him, saying he is stronger than when he first arrived. Still, the prince is not satisfied and wants to get stronger to catch up with Valis. Valis shows him the clothes Skiers used to wear at his age, and says that he is sure Skiers would be pleased if the prince makes good use of them. Lady Grossa, a horned warrior resembling Albedo from Overlord, patrols the barren land with her knights. Tired from the heat, she stops to rest midway, complaining about why someone like her, the successor to the throne, is being made to scout a place where nothing ever happens. Just then, a knight spots a horde of monsters hovering in the sky. Eager to prove herself, Groza springs into action and unleashes her power, turning the monsters into ash in an instant. Her knights cheer her on, and she basks in their praise until a monster nearly ambushes her from behind. Right then, the protagonist appears and cuts it down in one clean strike. She thanks him for saving her, and he simply turns with a gentle smile, saying he's glad she's safe. That one smile sends her heart spinning. She fumbles with her words, blabbering nonsense while he walks away, unaware of the storm he's left behind. She stands frozen, staring at him like she might never see her prince again. Her knights snap her out of her daze and ask if she wants to say anything, so she quickly calls out to him and says they were looking for him. They meet at a restaurant, where she explains that the palace wants him to compete against the other successors. If he ranks first, he'll be awarded the Great Sword of Black and officially recognized as a true Prince of the Darkness. As she talks, she notices how warmly he looks at Skier's sword and realizes how much it means to him. At another table, a red-haired baddie listens in, clearly concerned about the Great Sword. In the Kingdom of Whites, Iris sits alone on her throne, lost in thoughts about what happened the previous day. Shima enters and snaps her out of it, saying she is heading out to oversee the reconstruction of the destroyed area. When she realizes Iris was spaced out, Shima wonders aloud if the previous queen used to get lost in thoughts like this too. But she soon leaves to do her job, leaving Iris behind in the empty throne room. The scene shifts to the past, back when both Iris and Shima were candidates to inherit the throne. Back then, Iris was cheerful like a girl in love. After they finish praying to the progenitor rune, they talk about what it means to become queen. Shima says the queen stands at the center of maintaining balance with the darkness, which is a heavy burden. She sometimes finds it scary and doesn't want to stay cooped up in one place forever out of boredom. But Iris is more laid back. She wonders if queens sneak out at night to have fun. Shima had invited her for dinner that night and mentioned that Fiyus was looking forward to it. Iris, being completely dense when it comes to romance, assumes it's because it has been a while since they last met. Later that night, Iris visits the siblings. After a pleasant dinner, Fiyus offers to walk her home. On the way, she admits she feels like deadweight to them, but Fiyus reassures her. He says the wild plants she gathers taste good, which she brought up earlier. But instead of confessing properly, the idiot says he loves the plants. After he sees her home safely, she asks him about the role of the Queen of Light. Fiyus doesn't really know either, but he says that thinking about it isn't pointless. She thanks him for the encouragement and decides to figure it out on her own. One day, she stands on the edge of a cliff, gazing at the peaceful sea of clouds stretching to the horizon. She knows that once she becomes queen, this view will hold a different meaning. Suddenly, a black aura invades the kingdom. She runs to alert the knights, But before she can reach them, the black energy surrounds her. She doesn't panic and instead dispels it with her magical power. The sky lights up with radiant colors, and a voice calls out from above. It might be the progenitor rune. The voice declares Iris the next queen and warns her that she will face loneliness and must fight through it. Iris accepts the responsibility and vows to protect the kingdom and maintain the balance. Meanwhile, the protagonist joins the competition organized by Groza to decide the next king. The winner will receive the Great Sword of Black. Candidates from different races gather in the arena, all fired up and ready. Groza explains that each candidate must fight monsters locked in the prison. The two who perform the best will face each other in a final duel, and if anyone feels like their life is at risk, they are allowed to withdraw. The competition begins as the prison gate opens and creepy lion-like monsters walk out of there. Each contestant rushes in to fight their assigned monster, but our boy stays still, thinking back to when his village got destroyed. He realizes that these are the exact same monsters and lets his memory fuel his anger as he takes one of them down with a single strike. One candidate uses fire magic to shoot her monster, but it survives and charges at her. Seeing the massive beast coming towards her, she freezes up in fear, and it looks like this is the end of her. But just before it can harm her, our hero steps forward and knocks the monster down. But instead of Prius, his decision to help her makes others suspicious, and they start whispering and wondering why he stepped in to help a rival. Just then, a massive monster appears on the battlefield, and a few candidates try their luck and rush toward it, only to get crushed one by one. Only Adele and our hero stand back instead of acting recklessly. The monster then grabs a candidate and tries to squeeze him to death, but our hero uses this chance to leap onto its back and drives his sword through its chest, making the monster collapse and ending the battle. At the end, only Adele and the protagonist are left behind, and Groza announces that they'll face each other in a final duel once preparations are complete. Inside the building, Groza overhears Adele asking our boy why he helped that girl earlier. The protagonist says that he helped her because she needed it, and that's enough. But Adele doesn't see it that way. He says if he wants to become the King of Darkness, then he shouldn't help others because no one cares if he dies or not, and that he's speaking from his own experience. In response, our guy says that if killing and abandoning people is the only way to become king, then he'll make a new one for himself. After that, the long-awaited duel begins, with Adele striking first and attacking the protagonist from all sides, but our boy blocks each blow skillfully. Their swordsmanship is evenly matched, but our hero has the power of plot armor with him, so he shows him why he's the main character. He steps forward and knocks Adele's sword away with one swing and corners him with the blade to his neck. Adele asks why he isn't finishing him off, and our guy says that he wants to protect people and spread smiles. Adele quickly rolls back and grabs his sword again, charging in, but the same thing happens again with our boy disarming him and holding the blade to his neck, but this time Adele gives up and accepts defeat. With that, Groza declares the protagonist as the successor to the throne and the new prince of the kingdom. As proof, he is awarded the Great Sword of Black, which happens to match the color of his clothes perfectly. As he walks through the building, Adele formally introduces himself and asks for his name, but the prince says nothing. He then meets Valis, who says that he's come with a message that needs to be delivered to the Kingdom of Whites, and only the first and second in line to the throne are allowed to go there as special envoys. The protagonist and the other two get on the ship that floats into the sky using magical power. Groza tells our boy to be careful, as just because they're envoys doesn't mean they're safe, as the two kingdoms are still at war. Adele agrees with her and looks at our hero, asking if he's even capable of doing the job because he's the quiet type and not exactly someone who's good with words, and this mission is important. She says that their lives depend on it, and one wrong move means they're dead. In the end, Adele proposes to take over as the envoy, while the prince acts as his bodyguard, and the other two agree to this plan, while the ship continues its flight. Once they reach the harbor, Fuse is the first one to greet them by pointing a sword straight at their faces. Naturally, our protagonist draws his sword back, but before anything happens, Adele steps in and handles the situation smartly. He apologizes on our boy's behalf and says that a bodyguard has every right to protect the envoy. Besides, Fuse should have already been notified of their arrival. Our hero takes out a scroll with the official message, and one of Fuse's knights steps forward to take it. Adele keeps calm and tells them to lower their swords, and that they didn't come there to start anything, and besides that, Fuse doesn't have the authority to turn them away. Fuse coldly replies that he can say the envoys turned violent, and that he had to cut them down, but Adele calmly asks if the queen would believe that. Fuse replies that as a knight, it's his duty to protect the queen from all threats, so Adele tries to reason with him. He says that not everyone in their kingdom wants war, and it's only their king who's gone mad, and the people can't do anything about it. So he wishes for a new king to rise who doesn't rule like a dictator. He hopes that maybe then, both of their kingdoms could get along. His words finally seem to get through to Fuse, and the knight lowers his blade and asks Adele's name, before heading off to inform the queen and prepare for their arrival. As Fuse escorts them through the city, the protagonist looks around at the bright, lively town and thinks that it feels a lot different, warmer and lighter than their kingdom of blacks. But he also notes the suspicious eyes of people who look at them as outsiders. Eventually, they reach the imperial palace where they're asked to wait. When Queen Iris finally steps in, the moment freezes for our boy. He locks eyes with her and can't look away. It's quiet, but there's something between them already. Adele kneels down and introduces himself as the messenger of the king. Iris says she's read the message but doesn't understand why their king wants an alliance, especially when things have never been friendly between them. Adele responds that they have a shared enemy referring to Baal and says that they need to deal with him together. Iris agrees that Baal is a monster who threatens both sides, but once he's gone, the King of Darkness will just aim for her kingdom next. The protagonist softly mumbles that it would only happen under the current king. Adele explains that the king plans to resign soon, and the Kingdom of Blacks wants lasting peace with the Kingdom of Whites. Her old advisor doesn't buy it and questions everything, but the final decision rests with Iris, who pauses for a moment and tells them that she'll give her answer another day. After that, Fuse takes them to a guest room. There, the protagonist casually asks him what kind of woman Iris is, and the way he says it makes Fuse furious. He tells him not to speak of her so informally, but Adele quickly steps in again and apologizes on our boy's behalf and shifts the focus back to the real issue at hand, and the protagonist nods and says he'll watch his words from now on. Later that night, Adele finally snaps and says ever since they got here, the protagonist has done nothing but create problems. He says that he doesn't know what's going through his head, but they're surrounded by people who are ready to kill them the second they mess up. They all believe the Kingdom of Blacks is in the wrong, and Queen Iris might be planning to use this alliance to gain the upper hand in the war. But the protagonist cuts him off and says that Iris feels different, to which Adele shakes his head and walks away. The next morning, they stand before Iris again. Before answering the alliance offer, she asks the protagonist that as someone who came from the common people, what do the citizens of the Black Kingdom think? Our boy answers without hesitation and says that every time Baal shows up, people lose their homes, and that's why he thinks this alliance could actually help them. After hearing this, Iris thinks it over and gives her decision, saying that the Kingdom of Whites will join hands with the Kingdom of Blacks and go to war against Baal. The next morning, Shima enters the throne room to speak with Iris, but she isn't around. Instead, Fuse is slouched on the throne. He shows Shima a message from the King of the Dark, and she instantly understands that Iris has gone to fight alongside the Dark Knights against Baal. Both envoys are staying here as guests, and Fuse is making sure they don't cause any trouble. Still, he's observed that they don't seem like bad people. Shima decides she can't judge them until she meets them herself, so she plans to do that later. Meanwhile, Baal appears at the Dark Kingdom's border. This time, the walls are fortified and ready, as they're preparing to face Titans. Valis is leading the troops, and he gives a rousing speech to lift their spirits, much like Erwin once did. He charges in and confronts Baal head-on, swinging his sword wildly, more like a fly pestering an elephant than a real threat. A horde of dark energy-infused monsters rush in to support him, but Baal wipes them out in seconds. Another wave of creatures arrives and forces Baal toward the kingdom's outer wall. On Groza's command, a rain of arrows falls on Baal, but none of them leave a scratch. Even Groza's own attack does nothing. As Baal draws near, she panics and leaps from the wall. Baal crashes through with his wings and ends up facing Valis and another army of monsters. They try to trap him using magic circles, but Baal overpowers them without effort. A group of mages manages to hold him back with magic, giving Valis and Groza a chance to strike with everything they have. Their efforts fail. Baal roars so loudly that everyone freezes. He starts gathering energy to finish them off, but just in time, the King of Darkness appears and stops him. The king warps his people to safety, surrounds Baal in dark energy, and launches an attack. Even that strike isn't enough to take Baal down. As Baal prepares his next move, Iris shows up and restrains him with her white magic. Together, the Dark King and Iris trap Baal inside a mountain filled with molten lava. They seal the opening to keep him burning forever. With their shared enemy defeated, Iris gives the king a long look, then returns to the Kingdom of Whites. Later, Fiyus introduces the envoys to his sister Shima. Adele tries to flirt by complimenting her beauty, but she's not impressed. She asks if it's true that the people of the Dark Kingdom don't want war. Adele says yes, but explains they can't defy the king unless they're ready to die. The protagonist looks outside, sees Iris returning, and bolts out the door. Iris is barely holding on and doesn't have the strength to fly. She lands but stumbles, and the prince catches her in time. He supports her against a wall as her followers arrive. She's in pain and clearly exhausted. They rush her to bed, where she remains restless. Shima checks on her and concludes that Iris used herself as a medium for immense power, which has left her body in a dangerous state. She asks Fiyus to announce the result of the alliance to the envoys. Fiyus doesn't want to leave her side but ends up going. Later, Adele visits the protagonist's room and teases him, saying Shima seems like his type. He also hints that the prince might have feelings for the queen. The protagonist denies it and says he's only worried about her condition. Realizing he crossed a line, Adele apologizes. As he's about to leave, Fiyus barges in and scolds him for entering rooms without permission. Adele, as usual, stays calm and jokes that he didn't expect the Knight Commander to show up at this hour. The protagonist asks about the queen's condition. Fiyus snaps that it's none of his concern, but then softens his tone and says she'll recover soon. He's clearly jealous. Fiyus announces that Baal has been defeated and the alliance terms were fulfilled without disaster. Their mission is complete, so Adele decides they'll say goodbye to the queen and return to their kingdom. Meanwhile, Groza heads home, looking forward to a long bath. On her way, she meets Valis, who hands her a scroll and assigns her the duty of delivering it to the Kingdom of Whites. Iris has now recovered a bit, and both envoys stand before her. Adele is deeply grateful and says he has no words to express his feelings, but even though Iris has suffered a lot, she worries more about the people of the Kingdom of Blacks, who also faced heavy losses. She prays for those who do not serve the King of Darkness, hoping they are reborn with a pure soul. Adele then makes a bold announcement that shocks everyone. He expresses his desire to seek an audience with the King of Darkness and persuade him to stop the war against the Kingdom of Whites. His words sound like a death wish, but Adele has already made up his mind because of Fiyus, and he believes it's the only way both kingdoms can move forward. Just then, a knight enters the hall and informs them that another messenger from the Black Kingdom has arrived, so Iris allows the messenger to enter. Groza appears and kneels before her, presenting the message she brought from the king. While Iris reads the note, Groza glances at the protagonist from the side and sees that his eyes are fixed on Iris, which makes her make a face in jealousy. Iris takes a breath of relief and announces that the King of Darkness has requested a period of peace so both sides can recover from the damage caused by Baal. Everyone is surprised, and Fiyus comments that Adele no longer needs to risk his life for peace, to which Iris responds positively and agrees to the king's request. Her attendant leaves to write the reply, and Iris decides to take everyone on a short tour to see the Kingdom of Whites since she feels better thanks to Shima's treatment. As they leave the palace, they come across Theo, who is doing something near a tree. He gets excited to see his siblings, but the moment he finds out the others are from the Black Kingdom, he hides behind his sister in fear. Adele laughs and says they won't eat him, and Shima agrees, but Groza burns with jealousy again when she notices Iris looking at the protagonist. Her expression softens when she sees Theo, who steps out after realizing that not everyone from the Black Kingdom is evil. They ask what he's doing, and he shows them an injured bird. Placing one hand on the bird and the other on the tree, he channels healing magic through the tree to the bird, which begins to glow as the bird is healed. Shima explains that she taught him that spell and comments that Theo has a talent for magic. Fiyus stumbles forward and reminds Theo that he was supposed to join the Knights, but Theo teases him back, saying if he joins, Fiyus will be demoted to vice commander, and everyone laughs at the boy's confident reply. The healed bird flies away with its companion, and Groza remarks that birds here are cheerful and well-behaved, unlike the black ones back home that are always ready to cause trouble. Fiyus says the same applies to their envoys, all dressed in black, and Adele replies that people here are no different, dressed in white. Iris agrees with a smile, which makes the prince's heart flutter, but Groza sees this and can't stand it. She suddenly shares an idea and suggests that they try wearing each other's clothes, and the girls agree without hesitation. Adele and Fiyus are the first to exchange outfits. They feel awkward but go through with it. Adele asks the protagonist if he wants to try, but he declines. Now it's the girls' turn, so they head to the dressing room. Groza wonders whose dress she should try and picks Iris's, which doesn't please her. Shima suggests that Iris try on Groza's dress since no one else can wear the queen's outfit. Groza immediately removes her outfit and Iris puts it on, but it doesn't fit her well. Groza praises how it looks and urges her to show it to everyone, but Iris makes a face, clearly unimpressed, and Groza clicks her tongue, trying to embarrass Iris in front of the protagonist. Shima steps in and offers to switch dresses with Groza, who agrees. When they come outside, the boys look bored, but the protagonist, ever loyal, keeps his eyes on Iris. Adele and Fuse praise their outfits, and Adele asks the protagonist for his opinion. He lowers his head and casually says they both look good, even though he hasn't formed an opinion. They decide to play a game of chess using animal-shaped pieces like cats, but Fuse, the commander of the Knights, loses every single game. He gets frustrated but stays determined to win at least once. Shima thinks it's time to go back and let the envoys rest, but Iris insists on staying since she rarely gets to play with everyone like this. Theo says she can always come out to play because she's the queen, but Shima corrects him, saying that because she's the queen, she needs to stay in her room and look after her kingdom. The protagonist looks at her with serious eyes, feeling sad, but Iris remains cheerful and wants to continue. Suddenly, her stomach growls. She gets embarrassed, and at the same time, the protagonist's stomach growls too. Shima suggests they all eat together. Shima goes to make dinner and later sets the table with various dishes. Groza brings a special dish from her kingdom, anchovy soup. The protagonist eats bread and tries the food. Iris asks for his thoughts, but Adele answers first, saying it tastes bland like all palace food. Fuse disagrees and says it tastes great. Groza also takes a sip and finds the food plain, so she offers her soup. But when the others try it, it's way too salty for them. That explains why Adele thought the local food was tasteless. The protagonist then gets an idea. He adds a spoon of Groza's soup to the plain dish, and the mix turns delicious, so everyone copies him and agrees that the combination of dishes from both kingdoms creates the perfect flavor. They keep eating until all the food is gone. Unfortunately, there's no more soup left for later, but Fuse says they have something even better than soup, the wild greens that Iris picks herself. The protagonist recalls seeing wild greens in the Black Kingdom, but they look dark and withered. He says he's tried them before, but the ones here, grown in sunlight, must taste far better. Iris gets excited and announces that they should all go pick them together. Later that night, the prince looks outside the palace, lost in thought, but Groza appears and disturbs his peace. She asks if something is bothering him, and he replies that the Queen of the White Kingdom seems like a very ordinary person. Groza smiles and says he is also ordinary, and she will always support him. Her eyes say what her mouth cannot, but she puts those feelings aside and gently pushes him back to his room to sleep as they would have a busy day gathering the wild greens the next day. In the morning, they march toward the woods, led by Iris, who is extremely excited like a kid. She stumbles a bit, which worries everyone, so Shima advises her to be careful because she is not completely recovered yet. But these moments matter more to Iris than her health, and she takes everyone to a tree that is as huge as Bertholdt's Titan, where she always picks wild greens. While they are at it, Adele recommends a competition, suggesting that they divide into groups and see which one can gather more than the rest. Fuse imagines himself teaming up with Iris and Groza with Prince, so both instantly agree to the idea. Now the question arises about how they should divide the groups. Adele proposes that the groups should promote exchange between the two kingdoms, meaning each group must have one member from each kingdom, and this suggestion instantly drags the moods of the daydreaming guys. Before they begin, Iris advises them to carefully pluck the wild greens. Some of them are poisonous if not prepared properly, so they need to be picked correctly. She explains using the example of Angelica shoots. Though the trees are skinny like Ariana Grande, they have shoots growing on their tips. She shows them how to pluck the right ones and tells them that if they grow any further, they turn bitter, so they must be sure to pick only those of this size. Her sight falls on Fuki buds growing on the ground, and she shows them how to pluck those too. She mentions the names of several wild plants that none of them have heard before, so Shima decides to pull her out of the competition because they are bound to lose if she participates. In the end, the pairs are decided, and the two guys with unrequited love find themselves grouped together. Adele, chatty as always, gets paired with Shima, his crush, who acts like a stranger to him. The groups disperse in different directions. Adele and Shima find some Fuki buds on the way, but they are more grown than the ones Iris picked. Adele cannot tell the difference and tries to pick them, but Shima pushes his hand back, saying they should let Iris check them first. Calmly, Adele says she is earnest and asks if she thinks this is a difference between people from their kingdoms. She denies that and says it's just a matter of personality. She apologizes for earlier and picks the buds, adding that this level of growth difference will not be a problem. Meanwhile, Theo and Prince are together, looking for plants. Theo finds a plant that looks like bird's feet and wonders if it is edible, so he calls Iris over. She looks into it and confirms that it is bird's feet, as Theo guessed. He asks if they can eat them, and she tells him they are edible when boiled and can also be dried to use as a remedy for the common cold. Prince praises her for doing a PhD in herbs, which flatters her, and she shows them how to pluck these kinds of plants. After learning it, Theo goes around looking for more of them. Iris then asks Prince if she can join them, and he agrees with a smile that seems meant only for her. They sure look like a cute couple. While picking plants, their hands accidentally touch, and both pull back with blushed faces. From a distance, the jealous pair watches the moment and gets agitated. Fuse already has his hand on his sword's hilt. Groza asks why he looks ready to fight, and he says he is just making sure the protagonist does not try anything with Iris. She makes a face and asks if they even look like that kind of person. Somehow it calms him down and he apologizes, saying he does not doubt her. He talks about how they seem to trust each other like white people do. Groza says she realizes that he has the potential to become the next king, repeating the words Prince once said about his ideal. She does not say his name, so Fuse assumes she means Adele, but she corrects him, saying she was not talking about Adele. After some time, they all gather at the meeting point with their collected greens. Iris checks Theo's bucket first and sees that he has picked a good number of plants, and they are prepared very nicely. Theo looks at her with a calming smile, while the jealous ones around them make ugly faces, which they completely deserve. Iris moves next to Shima's group and sees that they also collected a lot. Then she checks Fuse's group and finds that they have picked inedible plants. When counting the total, the heroes group wins. Iris decides to use the plants they picked to make a dish. Theo walks up to the main guy and bets that eating together will make it taste even better. In response, he smiles brightly, which flutters the hearts of the girls. Now that the plants are ready, they need to gather the rest of the ingredients. The boys go to collect dry wood, while the girls head out to fetch water. Iris joins the girls and teaches them how to remove bitterness from the wild plants. She places the basket in the lake water and leaves it soaking for a while. Once the other girls finish fetching water, she tells them to go ahead while she stays behind with the soaking plants. Meanwhile, the boys are picking wood, and the main guy notices that it feels warm, likely because it is still alive. Fuse comments that sunshine is rare in the Kingdom of Blacks. Prince agrees, saying sun rays barely make it through the clouds, so he finds it soothing to bask under the sun. Suddenly, the main guy realizes Theo is not with them, so they start running around searching for him. While looking, Prince sees Iris at the lake and rushes to inform her, but he trips and crashes into her, causing them both to fall into the water. They pull themselves up and climb out of the lake, where he quickly asks if she saw Theo. She tells him Theo came by with a bunch of branches and left with Shima and Groza. Hearing that, he feels relieved and then notices their current situation. He blushes and turns away toward the lakeside, while Iris realizes her soaked clothes are a bit revealing, which embarrasses her. She also walks to the lakeside and thanks him for worrying about Theo, though he does not think it is a big deal. She suggests that they stay there for a bit to dry their clothes, and he quietly agrees, so the two of them spend some time alone. Fuse and Adele return to the meeting point and find Theo already there. He says he followed their advice to return to the starting point if he ever got separated. The main couple also returns after a while, and they look so cute together. With everything gathered, they all start preparing the food, boys handling the heavy work while the girls cook the dish. At last, they serve the meal in a calm spot. After the envoys take a bite, Fuse asks how it tastes. Adele says it is delicious, even better than what they had yesterday. Iris asks Prince for his thoughts, and he replies that it tastes better than anything he eats in the kingdom below. As usual, Groza gets jealous seeing them talk. Theo offers her the dish, and after tasting it, she bursts into excitement. She suggests adding a bit more salt, and luckily, Shima has brought some. They sprinkle it over the dish, which makes it even tastier. Fuse offers a trade agreement and suggests the envoys take the idea back to their home, but the main guy says they cannot decide that on their own and looks at Iris. She smiles and says she hopes they all get to spend more time like this together. A sudden message arrives from the Kingdom of the Blacks, ordering the envoys to return home immediately. So following that command, Groza boards the ship first, while the Whites bring out loads of parting gifts for them. Prince and Adele prepare to leave and meet Fiyuz, who returns their weapons. After that, they head to Iris to say their final goodbyes. Iris hands them a message addressed to the Dark King, hoping it can spark a trade between the two kingdoms. She believes that if the terms are followed, the balance will be maintained. However, things start to take a strange turn. Adele quietly states that this is the end. He says balance is the law of the world and life should be protected, but only those with strength can do it. For everyone else, this idea becomes a burden, floating above their heads like an alien rule. He says it's fine for the people of White, who gain power from the progenitor rune and can protect themselves. But what about those in the dark? Why must they live forever under a shadow? Iris replies that the rule exists to balance sky and earth, light and dark, and it has been this way since the world began. Adele suddenly bursts out in anger, revealing his true colors. He says this is exactly the kind of excuse the strong make. In a flash, he transforms into his demon form and lunges at Iris, aiming to end her right there. Before anyone can react, the protagonist steps in and slices him cleanly in two, just like Askeladd used to cut down anyone in his path. Fiyuz grabs the prince without hesitation and beats him to a pulp, furious at their betrayal. He regrets ever trusting people from the Black Kingdom. After binding him with rope, he drags him away to teach him a lesson. Meanwhile, Shima helps Iris back inside, though Iris seems disturbed. She somehow senses that the hero isn't the one at fault, and she quietly worries about it. Back on the ship, things grow tense. It suddenly starts moving, and a few knights report to Groza that the envoys have been arrested and something serious has happened. Back home, Fiyuz breaks down. He curses himself for believing in the idea of friendship between kingdoms and questions whether balance only exists to ensure opposition. He wonders if this means their knights are fated to fight forever. Shima tries to calm him, saying they managed to prevent the attack and that everything is fine now. But Fiyuz shouts that it's not fine. He says he's no longer sure about anything. Theo steps in to stop him. He says they haven't lived through eternity, so they shouldn't make assumptions about it. If Fiyuz picked a fight with a neighbor and dragged it out, he'd get mad too. Grown-ups should act like grown-ups and make smart decisions. After saying this, Theo runs off, upset. Shima stays calm and firm. She reminds Fiyuz that they are still on duty, then walks away, telling him not to stay up too long. Elsewhere, Iris stands before the progenitor crystal, filled with doubt. She asks the rune if the balance it upholds is what's fueling the hatred between the kingdoms. She says she isn't strong enough to stand above hatred. The crystal begins to glow, and the progenitor rune responds. It tells her she must decide what should be protected. Meanwhile, the prince wakes up in prison. As his senses return, he recalls what happened. He still doesn't understand why he saved Iris. Maybe Adele had planned this, and saving her might have benefited the Black Kingdom. But in the end, he chose her over everything. He remembers what he said after killing Adele, that those from the Black Kingdom have no choice but to obey the king, and Iris must think the same of him. Suddenly, a light appears outside the main gate. A pure white cat walks in, and the gate opens on its own. The cat walks ahead as if asking him to follow. The protagonist obeys. He notices that there are no guards in sight, meaning the cat is helping him escape. They move through the highly secured town, leaping over rooftops until they reach the hilltop. There, his two swords are pinned to the ground, and a soft light surrounds them. A crystal forms in front of him, sealing Iris inside just like Annie once did. The crystal shatters and Iris collapses into the prince's arms. They hold hands, and she says that light isn't the only thing that matters. Darkness must also exist, and both are needed for peace. The prince takes a deep breath and embraces her. He says he also wishes for peace. If helping her brings happiness to both kingdoms, then he will do it, even from the depths of the world. He tells her to walk the path she believes in. He reveals that he is the true heir to the Black Kingdom's throne and swears that he will become king. Together, they will bring peace to the world, a peace even Eren failed to create. But the world is against them. The knights have discovered his escape, and they're on their way. The prince thanks Iris for everything, then runs back toward his world. After the incident, things go back to normal in the Kingdom of Whites. The same monsters keep attacking every day, and Iris continues dealing with them. One day, Fiyuz and Shima kneel before her, and report that signs of darkness have been growing lately and scouts have been spotted near a specific area. Iris orders them to tighten security near every garrison and promises to head out herself the moment they detect any trace of darkness. For now, night troops and mages remain in the palace and wait for her command. Everyone agrees with her plan except Fuse. He requests a short leave, thinking Iris is still exhausted from the last battle. He wants to find a way to speed up her recovery, but Iris turns down his request, insisting she will recover soon. She reminds him that he needs to train his troops in preparation for any invasion, and Shima must have her mages focus on their magic practice. They both receive their orders and are dismissed. On the way out, Fuse tries persuading Shima to hear him out, but she disagrees with his idea and questions who will lead the troops in his absence. She also asks how he even plans to heal Iris. Fuse says he has a lead. She sighs and warns him not to act recklessly. Fuse travels to Atlantia, hoping to find a cure. Atlantia tells him there is a way, though it is extremely dangerous. Iris has regained her strength, but her magical nerves, the ones responsible for transmitting power, haven't fully healed. Normally, the effects of a pure soul would help them recover, but Fuse seems impatient. Atlantia explains that there is a sacred spring on an island called the Shining Droplets where the blessings of a pure soul gather. The water can heal her, but reaching the spring is extremely difficult. Fuse lies, saying Iris gave him permission, and convinces Atlantia to accompany him. In the end, she agrees to go. Back at the palace, mages gather inside a hall where the progenitor rune is kept. Together, they chant the spell Cage of Affection. They manage to cast it successfully on the first try, but it drains Shima's body. She warns everyone not to lose focus. This spell draws immense power from the rune, and more than one body is needed to handle it. If even one person breaks the rhythm, the spell will fail and everyone will suffer. She encourages them to stay strong and begins chanting again. A knight rushes in, informing her that Fuse has gone missing. Shima goes to Iris and apologizes on her brother's behalf. He must have left in search of a way to heal her. Iris tells her not to apologize, but to return to training and continue drilling the mages. Meanwhile, Atlantia and Fuse arrive at a cave that leads to the spring. She warns him again. Few who go there ever return, but Fuse stays confident in his ability and pushes forward. Now we shift to the protagonist's perspective, from the day he leaves the Kingdom of Whites. He keeps it a secret that he met Iris on his way back. After boarding a skyship, he returns to the Kingdom of Blacks. Upon arrival, he is barred from entering the palace and finds himself thinking constantly about Iris, how she carries such a massive burden on her small shoulders. It is not just about her kingdom, but the whole world. He decides he can't let her bear it all alone. During sword practice, he pushes himself so hard that Valis notices and questions whether he has set a new goal. The prince asks if everything here feels right. Valis explains that they have been ordered not to contact the Whites. Whoever holds the deepest connection to darkness is eligible to become the king, and that order must be obeyed. Darkness keeps spreading as it always has since the world began, but the protagonist questions whether anyone has ever stopped to wonder what the right way is. Valis says maybe the king has thought about that too. Maybe that is why he wants to spread darkness everywhere to eventually bring peace. But that outcome isn't guaranteed. Valis adds that a king is responsible for thinking beyond feelings and achieving results. He says the prince should simply make good use of him on the path he believes in. Their talk ends and they resume training. Grossa comes running and informs them that the prince and she are ordered to fight monsters at the front lines, ones too powerful for the regular army to handle. Valis goes to inspect the troops before reporting to the king that preparations are complete. Meanwhile, the prince and Grossa arrive at a barren land where monsters are expected to show up. After walking for 5 minutes, they encounter lion-like monsters and quickly take them down. As they continue, they spot a skyship heading toward the Kingdom of Whites. Grossa remarks that it does not look like the king plans on making peace. Suddenly, some bee-like monsters ambush them. During the battle, Grossa slips and tumbles down a hill. The prince leaps after her and uses his sword to slow their descent by driving it into the cliff wall. They land safely, but now they are stuck. Before they can find a way back, a massive monster appears. It is bigger than anything they have seen. It is as huge as oars from One Piece, and it even kills its own kind in its rampage. Grossa launches a magical attack, but it fails. The prince steps forward to handle it, transforming into his rat-like form and preparing to fight. In the Kingdom of Whites, dark skyships appear in the sky, signaling war while Iris stands alone and gets ready to face them. Iris has always felt the importance of the balance of the world since she became a queen. If this balance is disturbed, Then the world will face chaos. That's why law must be followed. But she always wondered if light and darkness had been balanced while fighting with each other. She cannot alone change the fate, and all she has to work on is the present. Shima deploys the knights and runs toward the tower, where mages are barely holding it. Some monsters cross the wall and invade the tower, and a mage tries to deal with them, but they overpower her. At the right time, Shima arrives and knocks them out in one single magical attack. She commands the mages to stay on the tower, while knights will go to the city to protect civilians. An alert situation is observed in the city, and everyone runs to get to a safe place. Amidst the ruckus, a dark portal opens up and monsters other than flying ones show up, which are basically goblins. Shima is informed that monsters have also invaded, and they feel the dire need for idiot Fuse. Atlantia and Fuse keep going in the cave and meet a dead end. Atlantia comes up with something and uses a rope gun to raise upwards, where he can see another way. Fuse follows him to get on a new path, which is pitch dark. They further walk on, and after a while they see there is no end to this cave path. Atlantia uses a scope to see a magical gate. He goes there and sees its pass through, otherwise they would have been walking here for years. They face a new enemy, a wall, and to break it, Atlantia has come prepared. He has stored the rune's power in round flasks, and they use them to break the wall, which leads them to an area filled with crystals like those seen in Genshin Impact. However, they don't get broken when Fuse hits them with his sword. Atlantia again comes with a trick and uses his spirits to light up the crystal. It finally shows them a way to a lake with shining droplets. Atlantia decides to proceed further with certain precautions, as the lake is deadly like a poison. He shows it by throwing a rock that breaks apart in an instant. But Fuse has a sheer resolve and steps into deadly water because they don't have enough time. The darkness would have spread like a fire now, and he could not waste time here any further. He finally reaches the floating droplets that suddenly come into his hand on their own. This is how his mission is completed. Shima also comes to the city and commands knights to lead people to the palace, while mages hold those monsters back. Just as they are about to throw their magical attack, Iris blows those monsters out with her powerful attack. She seems exhausted and asks those mages to create a magical cage. As per orders, they set a magical cage around the whole city, which is like the ultimate skill of Nahida from Genshin Impact. It acts as a barrier and pushes back every monster, but Iris faints due to extreme exhaustion. On leaving the cave, Fuse and Atlantia see the cage covering the city. Fuse assumes that darkness must have attacked them, and Iris might have used power to build the cage of this scale. In the Dark Kingdom, Groza and Princet are dealing with Or's brother, who can also use swords and fight with the protagonist on equal terms. But Prince is a protagonist, and he gives finishing blows to the monster, putting him to rest. After that, he questions Groza if they will be able to get back to the White Kingdom. Groza does not know what King is thinking, but after that, whatever happened, things cannot go back. Anyway, this girl puts effort into cheering him up and invites him to dinner, as she has captured a fresh fish. On her invitation, he goes to her dinner, where he still mumbles about the King of the Darkness and recalls what Valis said about the truth of this world. The truth is that the Dark King is always swallowed by darkness. Our boy does not come to accept it, moreover, he has a promise with the Queen to fulfill. Groza bursts in anger and asks him to follow his ideals. She will stay beside him and support him. She even confesses her love for him, that she has liked him since they first met. But he does not respond to her, which automatically leads her to believe he wants a future with Iris. He also nods his head to confirm it. She bursts into tears and runs away with a broken heart, yet she plans to stand by his side always. Fuse returns with the droplets and a bottle for Iris, and Shima sprinkles them on Iris. From this, the pain that was troubling her fades away, and she will get better soon. Siblings return to their home, and Shima explains everything that happened behind them. Mages are still holding the cage, but it won't last long. Fuse learned about it from the knights, and decides that once the preparations are complete, they will drop the cage. Iris goes for prayer and wonders what she should do now. She recalls her meeting with Prince and about how when he asked her to follow her path, she replied by saying that the path she believes in is the one together with him. Just then, the idiot Fuse comes in to interrupt her and says that she shouldn't push herself too much and get good rest before the war with darkness begins. She says that she is thankful that both he and Shima are always concerned about her, and Fuse claims that they consider her more than a family, so it's natural for them to care about her. Hearing this, she thanks him and walks back home. Our boy looks outside through his room's window and sees a horde of monsters riding in the sky, which shocks him. He comes to the town and hears an old man talking about the war that is going to happen with the whites. His sight falls on Prince, which surprises him that he is standing here instead of joining the war. He asks him if he has betrayed the king or something, but the protagonist denies. That man gets assured and comes to business, asking him to lower the taxes after he becomes the king. Two little kids approach him and ask if they are going to win. Their mom said the White Island blocks the sunlight and she cannot dry her clothes. Prince unwillingly ensures they are going to win. A knight with a troop of monsters shows up who is ordered to summon our boy, so they take him as he is the biggest criminal here. The people in the White Kingdom are getting prepared for the next war that might span the entire kingdom. Elder siblings advise Theo to run to a far place if things go wrong, so Theo tells them he will run to the sea using his magic. But he is sure they will win as they have Iris on their side. Siblings also agree, and Fiyus is so dedicated to fighting for Iris until his last moments. Iris is so energetic and prepared against the King of Black, just by remembering the promise she made with her lover. The next war begins between White and Black. The Knights of White are standing in front of the castle to defend it and deal with the Dark Knights. The Black forces are not limited to the ground but also the sky. Flying monsters keep attacking the mages who hold them back, but monsters eventually spread to the horizon. Even the King of the Black shows up in the sky, and Iris goes there to deal with him inside his darkness. The knights in front gate are fewer in number as compared to Black Knights. Fiyus raises the morale of his troops with his remarkable words that impress the one who is leading the troops of the Black Army. He is none other than Valis, who steps forward and challenges Fiyus for a bout. They spar with each other using swords, and Valis also directs the dark energy. He asks Fiyus what drives him to fight for the kingdom, and he replies it's his loyalty to the queen as well as his personal feelings for her. Valis considers them useless and states that they have prosperous things that are basically weaknesses for them. It hits on Fiyus' nerves, and he fights with him in full anger. The knights in the city are helping people evacuate. One knight protects a girl from a monster, but then a black energy infuses with him, making him a monster, and he runs after the same girl. But another knight comes to knock him out and save that girl. It's not just knights, but mages also get affected by black energy and move like zombies to attack their own people. Shima and mages find the cage method effective against this energy, so they cast that spell and envelope the whole city with the cage, which fades away the dark energy from the people. However, the dark energy spreads like a plague. Eventually, the cage breaks down and people are affected again. Shima tries to disinfect them with her light power, but dark energy is concentrated enough to dispel it. In frustration, she complains to Progenitor Rune that if she won't give them her power, then what will she do? The king finally shows himself within the Dark Realm, and he has an aura fitting to be called the Dark King. They begin their fight with King throwing his energy balls and Iris dodging them. King is overconfident and claims that they have fought multiple times and she cannot overpower him like every time. She is like a light, which disappears over a long distance, but he is the darkness that expands the entire horizon. It clearly shows who will reign for eternity. Iris is fed up with his bluffing and activates her spell to dispel the darkness. She will use her utmost efforts to erase him. Balancing is the only way to preserve the future, but King is against it, and he is somehow sure he will win. In their fight of tag, Iris goes with her full power to hit him with her spear, which he dodges without putting any effort. Then he throws his magic balls that eventually hit her, stripping her of her power, and she falls down. Shima tries to activate a spell, Light of Affection, but the power does not manifest, which makes her hopeless. However, she does not give in, saying that if incantation does not work out, they will just fight. Just at that time, Iris shows a remarkable stunt, falling from the sky and landing on the ground like nothing happened to her. They still have a last resort, one of the 7 powers, the Gear of Fate. Mages gather together and activate that spell just to face failure again. Iris gets depressed and loses hope that they are bound to be wiped out. King of Black also shows up and mocks their futile efforts. But Shima encourages her that they still have a way. She has to go and fulfill her duty as the Queen of the White. She will give everything to Iris, even herself. Iris comes back to her senses and flies away, while Bat King plays with Shima and strangles her with black energy. Iris goes to the building with the Progenitor Rune Crystal. She is still holding on to the promise with one who is not with her at the time of crisis. The Black Knight takes Prince to a teleportation portal that opens right in front of the king's palace. There, someone unexpected appears. It's Adel. He was believed to be dead, but he's alive and thriving. Prince stares at him in disbelief and asks how he survived. Adel smiles and says he's also a successor to the throne and not someone who dies so easily. He walks closer and asks why Prince tried to kill him even though they were allies. But Prince quickly fires back and demands to know why Adel tried to take down the queen. Adel reveals it wasn't personal. The king had ordered it. It was the will of the kingdom. Instead of asking why he attacked, Prince should be asking why he stopped him. Still, Adel admits that in the end, things turned out for the best. Iris is fragile. The shock of betrayal has already planted doubt in her heart. Soon, she'll be no threat at all. He explains something deeper. When two equals clash, the one who hesitates always loses. People take the king too lightly, but the real fools are the ones who think the king is a fool. That's why Adel was sent to remove Prince from the king's path. He continues, saying Valis doesn't know anything about this plan yet. He's the only one aware of the king's true will. After all, he's soaked in so much darkness that it almost feels like he's the king's own child. Adel was already half monster before, but now he fully transforms into a hulking creature, something straight out of Kaiju no. 8. The Dark King had once tried to eliminate the protagonist and Groza, thinking Prince would be troublesome. But it wasn't because he couldn't face him. The king had simply been cautious, and rightly so. As Adel speaks, Prince rushes forward and strikes with his sword. But Adel blocks it with ease, then crushes Prince's gear with his bare hand. Prince quickly pulls back, but Adel surges forward, unleashing his full potential. Prince blocks again, and this time something inside him changes. A dark crimson aura bursts out of him, different from the usual darkness. Adel realizes now that Prince had been holding back all along. The two collide, fists and weapons flying in a furious clash like something straight out of Dragon Ball. Prince finally channels his mighty aura into his sword and lands a devastating blow that breaks the ground beneath them, trapping Adel. Thinking it's over, he turns his back and starts walking toward the palace. But he doesn't realize that the darkness still lingers. It begins to coil around him and pulls him back. Adel isn't finished. He breaks free and goes after Prince again, smashing through all his remaining protection. Still, Prince stands tall, sword in hand, breathing hard but refusing to give up. Adel charges in one last time, knocks the sword out of his hand, grabs him by the collar, and drives a blade straight into his chest. But at that same moment, Prince draws his second sword and pierces Adel's chest as well. Adel laughs bitterly and tells him not to think this is a victory. He was only sent to stall. While they fought, the king and the Dark Knights raided the White Kingdom. Soon, it will be reduced to ruins. The king will absorb the progenitor rune, and once that happens, the balance of the world will collapse. Everything will be destroyed. Prince is shaken. He always thought the king only wanted to embrace the world in peaceful darkness. But this is pure madness. He says the king has no right to deceive and destroy innocent lives. But Adel is fading away, and his last words echo as he dissolves into darkness. Gripping his sword tightly, the protagonist teleports back to his kingdom and races toward the port. Along the way, waves of monsters attack him, but he charges through, slashing them down one by one. They keep coming endless. Just when it seems like too much, Groza arrives. She tells him to go ahead. She'll handle the rest. With a quick nod, he leaves them to her and sprints to the port. But no ships are in sight. Suddenly, power bursts through his body. Light surrounds him, and a pair of dark angelic wings erupt from his back. For a moment, he's stunned, but then he takes off into the sky, faster than a jet. Back in the kingdom, Shima is under attack. Darkness coils around her, twisting her mind with cruel thoughts. But she snaps out of it and shouts orders to her mages to protect the citizens and fight back. Iris kneels before the progenitor rune crystal. Tears well up as she prays. She says she's failed to keep the balance between light and darkness. She once made a promise to her lover to build peace together, but now she's breaking it, committing a sin she can't forgive. She begs the rune to use her body to seal away the darkness, even if it means her own destruction. Meanwhile, the hero is still flying, even faster now, slicing through every monster in his path. But then the rune itself speaks to him. It pleads with him to stop, saying they weren't meant to meet only to be torn apart. He should obey the laws of this world. But he doesn't care about things he doesn't understand. All he knows is that he made a promise to Iris and he's going to keep it. Far below, Iris keeps praying. She says if balance can be restored without her, then let her be erased. Let her disappear. The ground begins to shake violently. Valis senses the tremors and pulls back from his battle. Fiyus looks toward the palace and sees a blinding light, proof that Iris has activated her self-destruction. Shima is stunned. She's afraid for the people. Theo rushes to her and says it may be hopeless, but he's not giving up. He runs off, saying he'll keep running no matter what. The ground crumbles beneath Shima and she falls. Fiyus laughs madly, thinking he's won. But his joy turns bitter as the ground collapses under him too. The entire city is destroyed. The building that held Iris is gone. She falls through the air and sees her hero flying toward her, reaching out. She cries and apologizes. Her teardrop falls onto his face. He flies with all his strength, but no matter how fast he moves, he can't reach her. The distance keeps growing, and at the very end, she turns into a cat. The king stands between both kingdoms, furious. The progenitor and everything else have been thrown into his land. As he descends, our hero comes down with a mighty sword punch and smashes him into the ground, just as Iris had hoped. And that is how their love story ends, with a tragic goodbye.